Hey, what's up, guys? Frosty here with another hand of the week for you. Doing this one a couple days early. Been putting them out on Wednesdays, but I figured I'd just do this one today because I played it from a session today, so it's still fresh in my head. You'll notice it's actually at a 200 NL full ring table. I've been back playing the regular tables as opposed to Zoom lately, ever since the 700k milestone promo came out, because Zoom tables weren't eligible. I didn't bank a milestone, but things have been going pretty good at the normal tables. Put in a good session today, so yeah, I'm definitely at money for the month, running pretty well. Feel pretty good about my game. Um, I don't feel. I think I'm going to stick to the regular tables for at least the time being, but I don't feel that my work at the six max Zoom table has just been a waste because I've been playing both full ring and six max at the regular tables, so. It's definitely been nice to just open up the lobby and just feel comfortable and confident enough to play both six max and full ring, because it's been pretty random, I think, as to what has been running the most. Like one day I'll get like 16 out of 18 tables be full ring, and the next day it'll be like the complete opposite. The majority will be six max tables. So it's definitely a nice luxury to be able to just open up the lobby and feel confident enough to play whatever's running basically. So yeah, things have been going pretty good. So hopefully I keep running decent, and I'm gonna start throwing some 400 and L into the mix as well, and hope to end the month off on a good note. Before I dive into the hand, I just want to quickly address a couple comments I got asking to see my HUD. Um, at this point, the stance I'm going to take on that is I'm just not going to show it. I just put there's just so many numbers, and it will be completely useless unless I go over and explain all the stats really. And I've just put so much time and so much effort into it, like weeks basically, like to get it to where it is right now that there's just no way I'm going to give it away for free. So maybe in the future, I'll change my mind. Maybe I'll find some hands that like really need some stats to back up my actions, kind of thing, and then maybe I'll show it. But for now, I'm just gonna stick to more general theory and do what I've been doing, where I've been mentioning like the stats that apply in the hand. So with that said, let's jump into the hand. So this is a spot that occurs pretty frequently in today's games where Reg will isolate a limper, and then it'll fold to us, and we'll have a hand that figures to be ahead of the isolating range, but we don't know whether it's better to 3-bet or call. And in these spots, I think you really want to be 3-betting a polarized range and kind of flatting the middling stuff. Um, and like the reason for that is just because I think there's more value in flattening the middling stuff against and trying to get money from the fish rather than 3-betting it and really only being happy if they fold. Because if you 3-bet a hand like King Jack offsuit here, um, and either player flats or obviously 4-bets, like you just have to fold and you're just in a bad spot. You're in a bad spot if you get flatted too because then you have lots of reverse implied odds. So I'd much rather just call with that middling portion of my range and just try to get value from the fish, I guess. And then my 3-betting range will be more polarized. So the bottom of that range could ideally have some blockers, like stuff that's too weak to flat against either player. So like ace-6 offsuit, like 8-6 offsuit, 9-6 offsuit. That kind of stuff can be in the bottom of my range. And then the top of my range is simply just going to be hands that I'm happy to stack off with against either player. So in this instance, that it would probably look like queens plus and ace king with no history. Depending on your history, depending on the opponent, you can obviously widen your stack off range, throw in jacks and maybe tens in there as well. But yeah, it's just going to be opponent dependent. So that's kind of how I approach these situations, I guess. Um, and for me, this is just a pretty clear flat, and I do go ahead and flat. I mean, I guess I should probably add that for balancing purposes, you will want to flat your aces here occasionally as well. But I think that, I mean, in reality, I don't know. Your opponent just isn't going to see you play enough to for that to really matter, I guess. And like, I still want to like uh 3-bet my aces, my kings here because even if the fish folds, I'm still happy coolering the reg. Whereas if I'm betting like the middling stuff, and the fish folds and then the reg doesn't fold, it's just always usually going to end pretty badly. So yeah, you go ahead and flat, fish calls, and we see a flop of 9, king, 10, 2 diamonds. So we flop a set, obviously a good flop, and now the decision just becomes, do we lead or do we check raise? And whenever you are calling out of position in these situations, which will happen quite a bit because you'll be calling a lot from the small blind and the big blind, I think you really want to construct a leading range. Um, and given the fact that we're just kind of going to assume the recreational player isn't going to fold too much, that range is probably going to be pretty value heavy. Um, but it also includes some draws, so you're not always just leading the nuts, I guess. So yeah, I think you want to definitely want to have like a leading range quite often in these spots, and I think I quite strongly prefer to lead in this spot in particular, just because if we check here and we're going for a check raise, uh, what's likely going to happen is it's going to check to the pre-flop raiser, and he's going to be the one to c-bet, and then if we check raise, it's going to be just a lot harder for the recreational player to come along with hands that he might otherwise call a lead. So like any 10x, 9x, he might still call a king. He might still call flush draws. That'll likely be the case. But I do think it is harder to get money from the fish with a check raise here. And I also think against the reg, we're almost over repping our hand actually. If we check raise and the fish folds, and he puts the money in, he's probably gonna have Queen Jack himself, or he's gonna have a set of kings. Um, maybe all nines occasionally, but it's not even a great situation for us. So I think here it's a pretty clear lead. So that's what I do, and you can go quite big because it is quite draw heavy. The rec calls and the reg calls. So when they both call, I mean the fish still has a super wide range. Obviously, he's probably not folding any pair. I'm not really sure what to make of the regs call here. I think we can definitely rule out Queen Jack. That will raise. That will raise once the fish calls, pretty much always. I think he's looking at maybe like a king with a gut shot, maybe a lot of the time. Possibly a flush draw himself. He could even not slow play, but he could flat like a nut flush draw here, and just hope to keep the fish in with a weaker draw potentially, and my lead is probably going to look pretty strong to him too. So he probably doesn't want to just start raising every flush draw here, and get the money in. So I guess that's kind of the range I'm putting on the reg. He could even have like queens or jacks, those kind of hands too. The turn is terrible. That or the jack of diamonds are pretty much the two worst cards in the deck for us. The flush draws get there, the gut shots get there. Uh, I pretty much, I'm pretty much like I'm not giving up on this hand because we still have boat odds. But depending on the action, I might even have to fold this. Like if the rec bets and the reg jams, like I don't even think I'm gonna have enough equity to call this off. So it's potentially a bad situation on the turn, but I'm gonna have to go ahead and check here. I don't think there's much merit to betting now that all the draws came in. Like if we bet and somebody shoves, um, we're kind of forced to call it off, but that's not a call that we want to be making. So I check, rec checks, and the reg bets like a terrible amount. Like like it's a terrible amount with any part of his range really. I don't really understand why he's doing this or what he's doing this with. Um, but I'm happy to see it because now we have great odds to call. Um, yeah, obviously we're just in some big trouble if he has like a set of kings, but I don't think a set of kings plays this way too often. So yeah, I'm not really sure what to make of his bet, but I am just going to go ahead and call it at this point. Pretty standard, I think. And the rec calls, and we smash the river. So obviously we got pretty lucky there, potentially lucky. We're losing to bigger sets, but yeah, we now beat all the flushes and straights. So pretty much the second best river we could have hoped for. And at this point, we basically have a pot-sized bet here. So I end up shoving here, and I think I like it. I don't think there's much point in betting smaller. Like I definitely want to bet at least 100 or 98.78. Like I want to bet enough to get the recreational player to stack off here. And as for the reg, I mean, I think a lot of regs will get away from this hand if they have a flush. So I don't think it really matters what we bet. Like if I bet like half pot, like I think we're just losing value from the fish. And the reason we would be betting half pot is to try to induce a flush to call or a straight to call. And I still don't even know if that'll happen. So I think I do like my shove here. I think it's just best. Even though we're repping super strong, at least we cover the rec. And if the rec calls, maybe the reg will be enticed to call with like an ace high flush. So I do go ahead and shove. The recreational player calls, I actually don't even remember what they have. Um, I do remember what the reg calls, and I was kind of surprised when they called. I didn't really know what they would have. They kind of tanked a little bit, so I wasn't too worried about a bigger boat. Um, so I figured they might just call with the nut flush or something like that. But let's see. The reg shows king nine, and the fish shows ace jack. So yeah, I mean the rec has what I figured he would have, just a pretty strong hand, but he kind of like overplays his hand. He doesn't really realize its relative hand strength. He just kind of plays his absolute hand strength, having the straight. And the reg, I don't know, king nine. I mean, the turn bet is just terrible. I really don't know what he was thinking when he bets the turn, especially so small. It just seems awful. It just doesn't seem to accomplish much. You're not going to get any better hands to fold, and I don't really think you're getting many worse hands to call. So, yeah, I don't really understand his turn play, and the river is kind of like whatever. I still think he can get away from it, because I think I just have tens so often, and maybe even kings sometimes. But it's pretty tough by the river, I guess. But I just think it's kind of botched on the turn. Uh, but yeah. Anyways, let me know what you think of the hand. I thought it was pretty interesting. I think the 2 points we're talking about were pre-flop and then on the flop. I'm not sure if people lead that spot enough, but I think it definitely has a lot of merit. So yeah, those were the two things I really wanted to try to like hammer home. Anyways, I'll catch you guys next week, and until then, take care. This has been Frosty. I'll see you at the tables.